Okay. This is Luffy Gear 5 Luffy versus Sage 6 Path Naruto. And then two scenarios for this one, right? Um, like I said, this is Gear 5 Luffy versus Sage 6 Path Naruto. From like towards the end of the war and shit, right? So scenario one is in the One Piece world. That's in Wano, and then in the other world, it's that battlefield they're fighting at. Not in Kaguya's world. I won't put it there. Just actually, fuck it, we'll put it there in Kaguya's world. Um, it's just Naruto's area of expertise, and that'll come into play, later. I'll tell you why another thing. But scenario one is in Wano and One Piece land, right? Um, Luffy Gear 5 versus Naruto Sage of the Six Paths. So who's stronger? That's Luffy. I got Luffy being stronger than Naruto. Physically stronger, yes. He's throwing around, the Kurama Cloak. He'll play games like he did with Kaido with that shit. Yes, he would. You know, turning him into rubber and, slinging him around. However, Naruto has speed. Naruto is faster. He has the edge there. He can get away from Luffy. He has other things too. Durability is Luffy. He'll be taking attacks. Endurance goes to Naruto. Naruto can maintain that for him a little longer than Luffy can. With his intelligence goes to Naruto. Naruto is smart. He'll see Luffy's doing his thing and he'll come up with a plan as he's fighting. You know, this guy can, turn the environment into rubber. You know, maybe I should do my best to use my speed during this fight and don't get caught standing in one spot. Because if I do, this guy's gonna play games, like literally play games. Experience goes to Luffy. Luffy will get creative, and if Naruto sends out one of those, true super orbs, he'll grab it. He'll use the environment to his advantage and sling it back at him. Naruto has certain things too. Close skills go to Luffy. Luffy ain't afraid to run up on Naruto and punch him in the face, throw him around, slam him on the ground, grab Naruto, and he will grab Naruto too. Naruto does have the shadow clones and shit. I call that a range skill. He has, all kind of Rasengans too, Magnet Rasengan, Lava Style Rasengan, Rasen Shuriken. He has all those, and that would do some damage to Luffy. The Lava Style Rasengan, the one he used the Four Tails power to do shit like that. Um, he has all those at his disposal too. Um, Riku goes to Naruto, because he has the Tail Beast, giving him extra energy, Riku healing factor. Hacks go to Luffy though. Luffy in Gear 5, he still has Conqueror's Haki too. Conqueror's Haki, Armament Haki, Real Haki, Observation Haki, Future Sight. He can dodge Naruto's moves. The speed difference, the speed gap between them is not that great, but Naruto is slightly faster. Naruto does have, the Sage Six Paths chakra, two super orbs. He has all those Rasengans that I told you he could use. He has Shadow Clone Jutsu. Shadow Clone Jutsu, that would be a problem for Luffy a little bit. But Luffy knows how to, spam his fucking arms and shit and just get rid of that shit. You get rid of it. In the environment goes to Luffy. He turns the ground to rubber and everything. It didn't matter. This is in Wano. He did it in Wano. He saw the shit he did to Kaido. He would do the same shit to he'll do the same shit to anyone. Um, in Gear 5, you know, that's a part of his creativity and what he does. So Luffy wins that. Still a hard fought battle, but Luffy wins. And then in the second scenario, that's in Naruto's world. We'll just say in Kaguya's dimension where they defeated her, right? But Naruto's there. Naruto has the strength. He's fighting harder to protect his world from a guy named Luffy who's playing games with fucking turning things to rubber and stuff. The environment and that stuff. And he's just like, what? I never seen this shit before. This is, shit that we never seen. We never seen in our world. Speed goes to Naruto. Speed goes to Naruto. But durability goes to Luffy. Endurance goes to Naruto. He can maintain his form longer than Luffy can. Um, and he, has, certain things of Kurama's there with him. Um, Intelligence goes to Naruto still. Naruto will always be smarter than Luffy. I always say that in all these videos I make. Um, Experience goes to Luffy though. Yeah, yes. Yeah, these people, lose their minds and shit. Um, but he got Naruto. He, he'll figure out Naruto real quick. He ain't worried. Like he ain't sweating. Naruto's the one sweating, thinking about shit too much. Luffy ain't doing that. Luffy's just running around having fun, playing games with this Nine Tails guy. Oh, that Nine Tail Fox looks funny. I want to throw him around and throw him over here, and then grab his tails and like fucking tie him together and shit. He's creatively thinking about things. Naruto's like, okay, how can I defeat this guy in this amount of time or this? He's analyzing his opponent like for real. But Luffy is just being creative and doing what he does all the time. Fighting in a fight, but having fun doing it. Because he's in Gear 5. Um, Close skills are Luffy. Luffy will run up on Naruto and, fucking tag his ass. Naruto has taijutsu, but Luffy runs up on people a lot. He's a hands fighter. Um, Range skills go to Naruto. Naruto has the Rasengans, all forms, tail beast bombs. He has Truth Seeker orbs. He has, and I call the Shaolin Jutsu a range skill too because he has his clones over there. And Luffy would have a kind of a problem with that. But then if he uses Future Sight, he could see that Naruto would, sneak up behind him like the real Naruto. Because Naruto would do shit like that. He would have his clone over there, holding a like devastating attack. He would destroy that attack. Um, or Luffy would try to destroy that attack, and then the real Naruto would come up behind with like a Rasengan or like one of those big ass, tail beast bombs and try to, knock his ass. Future sight is the thing, and that's why I give it to Luffy for the hacks. He has all three types of hockeys, and he has the Gear 5 form. And if he has to go back into his base form for a little bit, and go into like Gear 4 again, and then go into Gear 5, because like Naruto does, have more endurance. He can maintain his form longer than Luffy can, just slightly, you know. And if he can do that, then they'll be all right. Environment still goes to Luffy though, because he'll turn that whole environment to rubber. He'll do it there. And in Kaguya's world, where she was sealed away, he could do that there. It's kind of like plain. There's a floor, and then the sky is like, I don't know, it's just yellow and shit. Where they fought in the final battle against Kaguya. That's where this is taking place. But even so, Naruto wins in this scenario because he'll fight harder for his friends. That's why I give it to Naruto in this scenario. In the other scenario, Naruto's the attacker and Luffy's doing that shit for Wano. You know, and Luffy does have the environment in both scenarios, but Naruto, I give it to him in this scenario. So basically, if it's in One Piece, Luffy wins. If it's in Naruto, Naruto wins. And that's my take on the Gear 5. Luffy versus Sage of Six Paths Naruto. Stay cool on the corner. I might have to make them two team up against Ichigo in the next, ones. We'll see what I come up with. But stay cool on the corner.